I'm Dr. Orion Taraban, and this is PsycHacks, Better Living Through Psychology. And the topic for today's short talk is know when to shut up. This one is for the guys. When it comes to mating and dating, I've seen far too many of you snatch defeat from the jaws of success. And the most common culprit behind this unpreferred outcome is not knowing when to shut up. The unwillingness to stop talking has blown more negotiations in the history of the world than we can ever hope to estimate. And as you'll recall from my book, relationships always progress through three distinct phases, irrespective of whether they last for the night or the rest of your life: attraction, negotiation, and maintenance. The ability to appreciate when further discussion will do more harm than good is an essential skill in sales. And as I've said before, if it works in sales, it works with women. Let's examine this further. I've spoken to a number of veteran salesmen over the years who have told me that one of the hardest lessons they've ever had to learn is the need to stop talking once the other party has made a decision to move forward. Whether we're talking about selling a car or going back to your place, there is literally nothing further you can say at this point that will help your case. Because they have already made their decision, you literally cannot talk them into doing it. However, you absolutely can talk them out of doing it. And you can do this in a variety of ways, despite your best intentions. For instance, let's say you're selling a car, and you have the bright idea to flatter your customer's decision to purchase a particular vehicle. You have excellent taste, sir. This is the best model we've gotten in this year. And the customer might latch on to those last couple of words. What do you mean, this year? Were last year's models better? When do you get in the next year's stock? Do you understand? Rather than feeling reassured as to the wisdom of his decision, all your comment succeeded in doing was introduce a new doubt into a mind that was poised to take action, which of course is very, very dumb. Now, this is a failing that tends to afflict more novice salesmen, and this is true for a number of reasons. First and foremost, this can occur because they have been programmed to believe that optimal sales strategy always progresses through a rigid succession of steps that gradually escalates the other party to the purchase decision, AIDA. Within this mindset, skipping a step is functionally equivalent to blowing the sale. And within every optimal sales strategy is the demonstration of value. Like, I cannot tell you how many sales calls I've sat through with more inexperienced businessmen who didn't understand that I just wanted to cut to the chase and who instead insisted on putting me through a slide deck or a scripted pitch in order to demonstrate the value of a service I was already interested in procuring. And this insistence was their downfall. I felt like I was talking to a chatbot, not a human being. And that did not make me feel reassured that I was being seen, heard, and appreciated for my specific needs and desires. It's important to understand who you're dealing with and to change tack once it becomes obvious where the other person resides on the decision-making continuum. As I've said before, the main reason why men blow the first date is they won't stop talking about themselves. And this is usually the result of a little bit of knowledge, which, as they say, is a dangerous thing. They've learned that women desire high-value men. Aha! Ergo, they come to the conclusion that seduction is merely a function of their ability to demonstrate the highness of their value as quickly as possible. And this typically results in such ham-fisted exposition that there is little space for the woman to feel anything other than admiration for the man's apparent ability to conduct himself so confidently in the absence of self-awareness. Now, if you're fortunate enough to have good things going for yourself, it's always better for her to discover these things about you than for you to describe them yourself. Show, don't tell. Showing is both more impressive and more trustworthy than anything you could effect with your mouth. It's also a reasonable safeguard against being exploited for one's resources, which is a common fear that I often hear successful men express. Now, the second reason why so many novices seem to find it difficult to shut up is low self-esteem. In the sales arena, it is essential to believe in one's product implicitly. And this is generally the attitude that one's product speaks for itself, but that the salesman will remain on hand in the event that people need assistance in seeing that. And in point of fact, there will be many customers and many more customers once the product's success is established that actually will be able to see the product's virtues on their own. However, a salesman with low self-esteem won't believe that. He himself doesn't believe that the product speaks for itself, so he can't possibly believe that anyone else would believe what he does not. And because he doesn't believe that, he insists on selling, often right past the point of the sale. I personally experienced this reticence when working with some former business partners. It took over a year of my insisting for them to add a buy now button to the sales page of our mutually developed product. And this was because they fundamentally could not conceive of someone who could recognize the value of our product and want to move things along. This is not how they would behave, and so they projected that tendency onto others. People need a free trial. They need to be convinced of the wisdom of buying the product. They need assurances and guarantees and comparisons, etc., etc. And yes, some people will need these things. And in general, the more significant the purchase, the more likely people will need those security features. However, it is absurd to insist that some people aren't ready to hand over their money and get on with it. And just like you miss out on the first group by not offering a free trial, you absolutely miss out on the second group by not offering an add to cart. Different strokes for different folks. The ability to readily accommodate people who have already made their decision will prevent you from blowing an easy sale. And you're more likely to do that if you believe in the value of your product and don't insist on a demonstration of that value. If you appreciate the insights on this channel, I would highly encourage you to get your hands on a copy of my book, The Value of Others. Over the course of 432 pages, I delve deep into my economic model of relationships and explain the behavior of both men and women in the game of mating and dating. I also provide a lot of actionable advice on how to get and keep more of what you want in the sexual marketplace. Once you read The Value of Others, you'll never look at relationships the same way again. Now available in ebook, audiobook, and paperback formats. The links are in the description. Now, this leads us to the pragmatics of power, which, among other things, includes a willingness to receive. Be willing to receive, gentlemen. Be willing to receive money. Be willing to receive female attention. Be willing to receive opportunity. Be willing to receive the good things in life, grace and abundance and adoration and respect. If you believe that you have to talk everyone into giving you those things, then on some level, you yourself do not yet believe that you deserve them. Talk to people with the confidence that your value is obvious and assured. And you will feel the need to demonstrate that value as much as you would feel called upon to demonstrate that water is wet or the sky is blue. A king abides in his dignity. He does not make arguments in support of it. Now, this is especially true when it comes to women in the game of mating and dating. Most women make the decision as to whether they would ever sleep with a man within the first few minutes of meeting him. And this decision, once made, is extremely difficult to change. If you take a girl home and you discover that her bra and panties match, my dude, it wasn't your decision to have sex that night. She made that decision for you. And she made that decision in advance of the date. It wasn't your demonstration of value on the date that sealed the deal. It was, as previously discussed in another episode, the fantasy about you that you successfully failed to disabuse her of that moved things along. She was neither ambivalent nor disinterested when she showed up. She was already motivated to take action. She had already sold herself on the product, and all you had to do was finalize the paperwork. Further selling would have been both unnecessary and counterproductive. Believe in your product and give her the option to buy now. All right, now the ability to shut up is not just strategic, it's tactical. It can increase interest and attraction when utilized appropriately. This is because the most compelling way to capture someone's attention is to take yours away. There are several psychological reasons for this. In the first Okay, be honest. During that silence, how many of you checked to see if there was something wrong? Did you check to see if the video stopped? If the internet was down? Did you fiddle with the volume controls? If you had been listening to me in the background, you probably suddenly gave me your undivided attention. And I was able to capture your attention by taking mine away. It's a powerful tactic to motivate action. Now, the caveat here is I was only able to accomplish this feat because I had already captured your attention to begin with. If you were just flipping through channels and you came upon some random vlog filled with dead air, you would just have kept moving forward. So taking attention away only works as a tactic if you've succeeded in capturing attention to begin with. This is something that master seducers understand. Seducing a woman is kind of like big game fishing. It's a process that is fundamentally governed by tension and release. You got to know when to let the line out, and you got to know when to reel the line in. Tension, reeling it in, and release, letting it out. If you're reeling when you should be letting, or letting when you should be reeling, either you're going to break your line, or that fish is just going to swim away. In the context of a first date, this means not jumping in to fill every silence just to keep the conversation going. This means not confessing your feelings too quickly in order to reassure her of your intentions. This means indicating your attraction, but making no immediate move to act upon it. These are all easy, actionable ways to introduce emotional and sexual tension into the courtship process. And in the context of an ongoing relationship, this means never allowing your woman to take you for granted. This means periodically giving her the gift of your absence. Give good love and attention, and occasionally let her go without. Not in a punitive or petulant or provocative way. These kinds of absences are not gifts. But in the way that a cloudy day makes us miss the sunshine, which is a treasure that we all take for granted from time to time. In any case, when it comes to sales and women, less is often more. Do not insist on selling, and cultivate the confidence that one's value speaks for itself. And in the interest of this episode, I'm not going to sell you anything. You know who I am. If you're interested in finding more about what I can do for you, I'm sure that you will find a way to make that happen. In any case, I really appreciate you listening to today's episode. As always, I appreciate your support, and thank you for listening.